Hi there, I am from NeoSkills. Let's talk about what EC2 is. Moving forward, in this video what I am going to talk about is, what is EC2? And what are the components to need for building an EC2 instance? AWS offers plenty of services offered under different domains like compute, storage, database, migration, network, management tools, media services, security, business productivity, application integration, machine learning, game development, and many of more coming up. Out of which EC2 falls under the compute category. Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, provides scalable computing capacity in the Amazon Web Services Cloud. Using Amazon EC2 eliminates your need to invest in hardware upfront, so you can develop and deploy applications faster. With EC2, it is very easy to scale up or scale down our infrastructure based on the demand. Not only that, this EC2 service can be integrated well with almost all the services in Amazon. And out of all this, best part could be we only pay for what we use. For compute capacity, we requires an EC2 instance, and here is how we go about doing it. The first thing is to create an AMI, which is Amazon Machine Image. That's really the software and the application packages we would need to run our application. And the second is to choose the hardware. In here is the instance type. Depending on the workload we would be choosing the hardware, and depending on the instance of the workload we will be choosing the size of the hardware. And then finally we would configure the instances, and how many instances do I want, in which subnet do I want them, and what's going to be the stop or terminate behaviors of the instance, and do I want to update any patches when the instance starts running. All those piece of information going here when we configure the instance. And then the first three steps are about the OS volume and the basic hardware. Now it's time to add additional storage to the EC2 instance. That would be step 4. And then tags. We use tags, or we would configure tags to easily identify an EC2 instance at a later point. In it we give some meaningful names so we can identify, like in which team it belongs to, which billing department it belongs to, what's the purpose behind launching the instance, like that. An environment where we run 700 to 800 or even more instances, identifying an instance and trying to understand who owns the resource, for what purpose we created. It could be a full-time work. Tagging comes to our rescue at that time. After tagging, in step 6 we would configure the firewall, which is also called security group, for the EC2 instance, and this is where we would allow or deny connection for an external wall to this particular EC2 instance. Well, it works both ways, from outside and from inside out. This firewall blocks the connection based on port number and IP address. And finally, step 7, we review all the configuration that you have done, and we make sure that the configurations is what we wanted, and finally click on submit. That will launch an EC2 instance. Alright, this was just an overview of how to create an EC2 instance. Now let's talk about each and every step in detail. So to begin with, let's talk about how to create an AMI. Well, the AMI is just a template that is used to create a new instance or a new computer or a new VM or a new machine based on the user requirement. The things that go into an AMI are the software, the operating system, the additional application that get installed in it, stuff like that. The AMI will also contain software information about operating system, information about access permission, information about volumes. They all compact in the AMI. Again, the AMI are of two types. One is predefined AMI, or called Amazon provided AMI. The other one would be custom AMI, the AMI that we create. Now let's talk about choosing an instance type. The instance type is basically the hardware specification that's required for a machine that we are trying to build. And the instance type is categorized into 5 main families. They are to begin with its compute optimize. Now, compute optimize gives lots of compute power or lots of processing power. So if my application is going to require lot of processing power, I should be picking compute optimized instance. And the second one is memory optimized. Now, this is very good for applications that require in-memory caching. There are some applications that performs well with cache or through cache, or the application would create a lot of data that it wants to keep in cache or rereading or for processing stuff like that. For those type of application, this memory optimized instance which comes over the memory cache is very good use case. And the third one is the instance that comes with GPU, or called GPU optimized. GPU stands for Graphical Processing Unit, and this is very good for application that deals with gaming. This is very good for applications that's going to require large graphical requirement. And storage optimized, the fourth option. Just like the name says, this is very good use case for storage service. And the fifth family type is a general purpose. Just like the name says, it's for general purpose. If you are not particular about the family, then you generally would end up picking the general purpose because here the services are sort of equally balanced. You will find balance between the virtual CPU and the memory and the storage and the network performance. It is sort of balanced all the components. Then as third thing, we have to configure the instance. Now, here is where I have lots of options about purchasing. What type of purchasing do I want to do? Do I want to go for spot instance? Do I want to go for a reserved instance? Do I want to go for an on-demand instance? These are billing options available, and that's available under configure instance. Not only that, here is where I am going to put the EC2 instance. Do I want a public IP address assigned to it? Do I want an IAM role attached to it? IAM role is authentication. What kind of authentication I am going to provide, and the shutdown behavior. The shutdown behaviors include, do I want to stop the instance when the user shuts down the machine from the desktop, or do I want to simply terminate the instance when the user shuts down the instance from the desktop? Those things going here, just like the name says, configure instance. Lot of instance configuration options comes in here. That's the third step. And not only that, under the advanced details or advanced tab, under configure instance, I can bootstrap the instance with some scripts. Bootstrap is nothing but the scripts that you want in the instance before actually comes online. Let's say you are provisioning the instance for somebody else instead of you launching the instance and logging in and running some commands and then handing it over to any other person. You can create bootstrap shell scripts and then paste it in the console option available on the configure instance, and Amazon is going to take those commands run on the instance before it hands over to the user that initially requested for that instance. Now it could be a different user or just you. As the fourth step, we will have to add storage to the instance that we are about to launch, and here we have bunch of storage options. And the best part about storage is free subscription user. They get to use 30 gigabytes of SSD storage or magnetic storage for the whole year. In this stage where we are ready to add storage, we will have to mention or provide the size as GB and the volume type. Is it going to be a provision volume? Is it going to be a general purpose volume? Is it going to be a magnetic volume? Or any more like that? And we also need to give inputs about where the disk will be mounted and whether this volume needs to be encrypted or not. Now, fifth option would be adding tags. Like we discussed some time back, tags are very helpful to identify a machine in an environment where we have 700 or 1000 VMs running. Security groups are the actual firewall that sits in front of EC2 instance, and it protects EC2 instance from unintended inbound and outbound traffic. Now here is where I can find access to my EC2 instance based on port numbers and based on IP address from which it can be accessed. And finally, we get to review the whole changes or the whole configurations we have made and find out whether they are intact with the requirements, and then click on submit. That's going to launch an EC2 instance.